Welcome to Station 3. At this point, you should have finished your end of the year practice assessment, had a chance to go through the task items in illustrative mathematics. One of the reasons I am constantly bringing that website up is because it is hyperlinked into the blueprints as possible ways to interpret the standards. So it's an interesting tool to start with and then plan your instruction. We all know that in the real world, many of our children come to us without the foundational knowledge to tackle the standards that are on grade level. So one of the ways I battled this in my own classroom was to do what's called a progression model for stations. And this station will be examining what that looked like in my classroom and ways that you might be interested in using this in your classroom. The basic idea came out of using stations, but taking stations to a whole new level and differentiating them at the same time that I was teaching it. So if I was teaching operations and algebraic thought, then my students were working through stations on algebraic thought. If my kids were working on fractions, then they'd be working on fractions in their stations to try to get more of my students to pass and master the content and not have to remediate everything after I gave my unit assessment or whatever it was. So to build it, I would think about what my unit was. So let's say it was a previous assessment on operations and algebraic thought. I would introduce my content on day one. I would bring in vocabulary activities, kind of give the big picture idea, a hook, maybe a little video. Dan Meyer is a great one for having videos that kind of spark the imagination. And then at the end, I would give an exit ticket. This exit ticket was really only one question, oftentimes, but a deeper level question, and sometimes I would just cut and paste it from illustrative mathematics. At which point, my kids would leave the room after they completed this exit ticket, and that exit ticket would put them into 3 different levels. Now these aren't 3 different groups and all groups have the same exact kids. It was completely derived from how well they did on that exit ticket. The kids who did really poorly, they couldn't set up the problem well, they couldn't, they were showing absolutely no foundation that I needed them to have in order to tackle that exit ticket. I would put into level 1 or my lower readiness. The kids who had a few misconceptions that needed to be addressed but were pretty close to being on level went into my 2nd level, and my students who were on grade level, ready to go and be challenged, began in my 3rd. Now we all know that sometimes level 1 is more top heavy than level 2, sometimes level 2 is more top heavy than any of them, and sometimes in those beautiful worlds we have kids all ready for level 3. But again, I used my exit ticket to put them into these 3 levels. So the rest of my week, I would still make sure I was using on grade level work, guided practice, independent practice, but the last 30 minutes of class, students would move into stations. My students ready for Station 1 would start in Station 1. When they could master Station 1, they moved to Station 2. When they showed mastery in that one, they moved to Station 3. 2 moved progressively through as well. 3 moved progressively through as well, so that you can see that even if it took one longer, the idea was that everybody finished level 3 by the end of the unit. At the end of the unit, I would do my unit assessment and analyze my instruction accordingly. I use this as a brainstorming tool and still use this as a brainstorming tool with some of my teachers that I work with. And I would start with my level 3 because by the end of the week I wanted my kids to all move through this station. This station I did my best to have a full balance of rigor, which would be conceptual, procedural, and real life application. I sometimes again took the illustrative mathematics tasks and copied and pasted them into my station. Once I figured out my level 3, I could then think, okay, how can I support those non-ready, low foundational students? This is the hardest work, is the support. It's one of the reasons why I put the progressions manual in your pink packet, because you can see several different ways to think about fractions. They put it on the right hand side. Yes, there's a lot of reading on the left hand side, but the pictures are pretty useful on the right hand side. But my progressions helped me create my level 1 and my level 2 stations. And then my level 4 and level 5 stations were more of those problem-based, out-of-the-box, type 2 and 3 questions. I placed a progression model in your station packet to give you an idea with operations and algebraic thought. You can see that where we started was with station 3, and this came from that part question that talked about tiles, and the art teacher had different groups make different numbers of tiles, and then they had to put all the tiles together to figure out how much of the board space the art teacher actually used. So what is it that kids need to know before they can do that kind of creation with tiles? They have to have an understanding of arrays, and that they need to have a understanding of arrays. So that would be level 2. And then before that, they need to understand the difference between additive reasoning and multiplicative reasoning in regards to arrays. So they move from level 1, 2 to 3, and then get more into the problem-based creation in levels 4 and 5. Levels 1 and 2 tend to be very conceptual, so that they can become more fluent and procedural, so that they can become, so that it's easier for them to apply what they know in 4 and 5. So you can see the bridge in rigor as well. Okay, so again, if you're following the pacing guide, then you are going into NF1 and 2. If not, maybe you've already taught NF1 and 2, but regardless, in the next station you're going to take this idea and make a progression model of stations, so that your kids who got it ready to go can start in 3. Your kids who, that's supposed to be an and, sorry, have a few misconceptions can start in 1. And those kids who are lower readiness can start in 4. Okay, let me say that again. Your kids who have it are going to start in 3. The kids with misconceptions, what do they need to get to level 3? And those kids with very limited mathematical knowledge, what are they going to get in level 1? Level 1 then is going to take several days to get to level 3. Level 2 will start in 2 and move to 4. 3 will theoretically get to 5. And then as they finish things early, you can always put them into 10 marks or to Alex or go back into old stations to remediate. But the idea is that everybody moves through station 3. Okay, it's time to start the planning process. I did put some guidance together for you, station 4, to build station 3. I always start there and then go and do 1 and 2, 4 and 5.